Spokane, that mysterious place in Washington state that no one really knows about, but everyone somehow heard about. This beautiful city of ours is a great place to move to, but you don't want to do it haphazardly. This video is for those of you wishing that you either would have known something before moving over or tips and tricks in order to make sure that you have a smooth, successful relocation over here to the Pacific Northwest. My name is Adam Clark. This is Living in Spokane, Washington, and I'm here today to show you guys everything that you need to know to make a healthy, informed choice that will serve your family well in your relocation over here to Spokane. If you guys are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and hit that bell. It helps a growing channel out. And I just want you all to know that my team and I, we get calls, texts, messages, emails, what have you, every single day from people just like you who are looking to relocate over to Spokane. So be sure to reach out. Either my team or I will get on touch with you, and then we will be able to help facilitate your relocation to make sure it is as smooth as possible. Now, be sure to stick to the end of this video, because at the end I got a tidbit for you that only a local Spokaneite could ever inform you of. So be sure to stick around for that. And until then, let's get to it. First things first, what you guys need to be aware of is Spokane is laid out a little bit differently than most of the major metropolitan cities that you may be used to. It's like one part small town, one part city, and it's just kind of its own little thing. Spokane is very spread out. We have a large geographic area to build into, and then there's a lot of surrounding suburbs, cities, townships, what have you, that also kind of incorporate the greater Spokane region, all of which is kind of what the locals think of as Spokane. So be sure to pay attention here, because what I'm going to give you is the insights, the ins and outs on how the city is laid out and how it works, so that you can make a well-informed choice for yourself. Now, what the first part of this that we really need to understand is that if we go to North Spokane, so if you're looking at your map, you had North Spokane, which is everything north of I-90. So I-90, first off, is the dividing line for Spokane that runs east and west of the city, going right through the heart of it. And what we Spokaneites call North Spokane is anything north of that, especially north of the Spokane River, going all the way up till the town of Meade. Now, in this particular area, how the city works is that you have division, which is our main corridor separating the city from east to west, right? So you have north and south divided by I-90, east and west divided by division. So if you go up there, that's our main corridor. But if you're thinking that's a great way to move south and north through the city, you would actually be wrong. A local Spokaneite would never take division north or south if we can absolutely avoid it at all costs. The timing of the lights and the traffic flow on that main street there is just absolutely god awful. What would better serve you is either, if you're on the west part of that, taking the Maple Ash corridor, they're both one-way streets, one going north, one going south, is a far more efficient and better traffic light timing, so that you can actually make efficient time going north and south on the north side of Spokane. If you're east of Division, you're much better taking streets like Addison or Hamilton. They have great north-south traffic flow and can actually get you to just about anywhere in the city faster than taking that main corridor of Division itself. Moving on from there, we get into the South Hill. Now, the South Hill is everything south of downtown, south of I-90, and south of the river. The South Hill itself is one of those places in Spokane that was built a long while ago with some difficult geography and topography. It's a big hill itself, hence the name South Hill. And in the winters, yes, it does get icy and it can be a little precarious, especially if you're not used to driving in the snow. Now, the main thing to note there, the main ways to go east and west through there are streets like 14th Street, or streets like 29th Street, and streets like 57th Street. Those are the three main streets that most locals use to get east and west across the area of the South Hill itself. Now going south and north, there is no street that goes directly south and north. They're all kind of windy, and it depends on where you're at. If you're west on the South Hill, you're going to be looking at things like Maple Street. You're going to be looking at Grand, all of which kind of wind their way up the South Hill, but more or less will get you further and further up the hill as you go along them. Now, if you're on the east side of that, you're looking at streets like Freya, which is one of the absolute best ways to get north and south on the South Hill, but that's on the eastern side of it right there. Now, moving on, giving you some more traffic flow from there, we're going to head to downtown. Now, downtown Spokane is just that. It's downtown. It's right in between the north side of Spokane, the south side of Spokane that we just covered. It is that main chunk of our cityscape that is right there with the river cutting through it, Riverfront Park right dab there, creating a beautiful scene. And as far as downtown is concerned, what you're going to see is a series of one-way streets. Now, thing to note is downtown is very forgiving, that if you miss your turn, just keep going down a couple blocks, because usually one street goes one way in one direction and then the very next street goes one way in the other direction. Now, as far as the multi-directional streets, there's fewer of them every single year because they're trying to increase the efficiency and traffic flow through our downtown corridors. So just keep in mind that as you go through, and if you miss anything, just keep going, because then you'll be able to find your way over in the direction that you want to head, and then you'll be able to usually orientate yourself back on track. Downtown itself, it has no main area that could be considered the actual congregation point of the city outside of Riverfront Park itself. But we do have a mall, our downtown mall, centered right there, that has the movie theater, lots of shopping and things like that, and a good parking garage, so you don't have to worry about where you leave your vehicle. It's also very walkable, and actually most people who live around the downtown area tend to actually walk on downtown versus drive. They tend to find it to be actually more efficient that way, not too different from a major metropolitan area. We in Spokane, we like to think of Spokane as the biggest small town you've ever been to. Everybody seems to know everybody, and despite our actual large population size, and in fact, we're the number 2 largest city in the state of Washington, but you would never know it coming here. Now, the reason for that is because as you separate Spokane, the downtown, the South Hill, the north side, Spokane Valley, what have you, it tends to be very segregated. Every little section of the city, if you live there, you tend to stay there. That tends to be where you do your shopping. That tends to be where you go to school. That's obviously where you live, and you probably work within 15 minutes of where you live. So you tend not to leave your little area. So if you are doing that and everyone else is doing that on the north side, for example, chances are when you go to the local grocery store, let's say Safeway, there's a good chance that you're going to run into somebody you know, because they also do the same thing. So it kind of creates these sub-communities around the greater city itself, giving us that small town feel. The good news is a lot of people really like that. They think it's charming. And then on top of that, we do have the population to support, large businesses and shopping centers and, big stores like Costco, Walmart's obviously. We got an Amazon warehouse. I mean, we got just about everything any major metropolitan city would, but it has that very small town feel. The next little factoid that I wanted to share is that most people don't realize that Spokane is actually a testing ground for new restaurant concepts. That's right. So Spokane actually has a very robust restaurant scene with a lot of new food concepts and interesting restaurants constantly popping in to test their concept here, to get a proof of concept. And then if it's successful in this market, they then take that concept and then they spread it out nationwide, which means we always have a rotating, endless series of food options available at any one time, creating a very interesting experience, especially for you foodies out there. We have hyper high-end restaurants and little eateries like Candle in the Woods over there in Idaho, all the way down to your basic standard franchises like McDonald's and everything in between, creating a very diverse set of options that you have to choose from. Now, On the other side of that spectrum, one of the major critiques I constantly and continuously get about this city from people moving in is that our nightlife seems to be a little on the lacking side. We do have our bars, we do have our hangouts, but we don't have any major clubs. We don't have a major robust nightlife scene that is just filled with endless options that you might find in like San Diego or Seattle, for example. We do have our little local hangouts, but that tends to be exactly what they are, little local hangouts. We don't have an endless amount of things to do per se, especially when it gets into the later hours and the city completely essentially shuts down at 2 p.m. This is not a 24-hour city like Vegas or New York. But if you like a little bit of a quieter nightlife setting, or you're going out isn't that big of a deal for you, then Spokane definitely has plenty of places to go grab a drink, whether it's a martini bar or a nice dive bar. Nice dive bar, sort of an oxymoron, right? Anyways, if you like to drink, we should have something available for you. Back on the positive side of the swing, one thing a lot of people do not realize is that we have an airport that's not only about 15 minutes from our downtown via I-90, quick, easy, fast access. It's an international airport. There are flights going all over the place, and it actually makes it a very convenient place to live, especially if you have a traveling type job or that's some sort of the nature of your work and you're constantly needing to go back and forth to the airport. Not only that, the airport itself tends to be much more efficient in terms of getting through the security lines than your standard international airport. For some reason, I noticed that when I go to major cities, they want you to be at the airport hours and hours early before your flight just to make sure you get through security into your gate. Not the case here. Oftentimes, you can usually cut those times in half or even less, depending on the time of day, and you're going to make your flights just fine with a lot of options tied in there for you, getting you to just about, in fact, I think anywhere you really need to go. Maybe not directly, but definitely via connecting flights. Now, definitely one thing to truly understand about Spokane before moving here is how incorporated our entire city is into the nature scene around it. There are literally giant trees growing absolutely everywhere, and from an aerial view, you can actually see that it's mostly trees with some buildings in between, and it looks like just this giant greenscape because of how much nature we incorporate into our city itself. This creates a very green, very healthy, very alive feel for sure. And if nature is your thing, then this is definitely the place for you. Not only that, we obviously have an absolute fantastic hunting scene out here in Spokane. We are absolutely surrounded by nature, by mountains. If you want to find it, we have some terrain within 100 miles where you can probably go get it. And all of the hunting in between with absolutely massive deer, massive elk, and other wildlife game. So for you hunters out here, this could literally be a paradise. And all this nature also includes our main attraction, the Spokane River itself. The Spokane River actually flows straight through the city itself, roughly going east to west, all the way out to the coast itself. And one of the more fascinating things that people don't realize is that we have one of the largest waterfalls in the United States that's actually in the city itself. A beautiful series of cascading water going right through the downtown area. There's many walkways and shops that are absolutely center their view along it, so there's plenty of opportunity to check it out. And it's one of those things that I highly recommend because as a local, it's one of those things you tend to take for granted that you absolutely should not. It is straight up majestic. Be sure to check it out. Now, one of the major things that take into account that often people just don't is the culture of Spokane itself, and I'm talking politically. I know politics is taboo, and here I'm not here to tell you one way or the other, but what I am here is to give you an idea of what you're in for if you decide to relocate here. Now, Spokane itself has this great mixture of ideals and cultures that are heavily influenced by the state of Washington itself and the state of Idaho that's literally right next door. We have a very liberal state considering all of the the policies and the governorship in the Seattle area itself, which heavily influence everything in the state, including Spokane. But we are literally right next door neighbors and in much closer proximity to our Idaho cousins than we are to our capital of Olympia. Now, Idaho is a very conservative state, so what you find here in Spokane is that you have this mixture of these conservative ideals and these liberal ideals with a whole range of spectrum that you can absolutely find here. Now, I will say, all in all, grand total, tallying it all up, we're probably center right on the spectrum of things, so be sure to take note of that before moving over to Spokane. Okay, I know it should go without being said, but here we are. For some reason, it still blows people's minds that we're a 4-season climate. I'm talking a true 4-season climate. You will definitely have summer. You'll definitely have fall and autumn. You will definitely have the winter. And then you will definitely have spring. You're going to experience all 4 seasons 100%, with winter being the longest season of them all. That has to do with our latitude and where we are against the Cascade Mountains that determine all of that. So if you are from one of the warmer states, which is most of them compared to us, you will want to make sure that you have a winter hobby. I made this mistake myself, and I'm a local. Every single winter getting all bummed out because the snow was coming and having nothing to do, yet I never went on the mountain to try out skiing a day in my life. So don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. Make sure you pick up a winter hobby. It makes it infinitely better to survive our winters, so you're not just surviving, you're actually thriving through our winters and things that you look forward to before we get into our absolute incredible summer months. The summers here are so amazing that we have a very, very large and robust snowbird culture. People that go south during the winters to avoid that whole thing, they didn't pick up a hobby. And then those that love to come back to this area for the epic nature and scenery that is our summer months. There are literally a metric ton of lakes surrounding the area. We're actually, one of the many names that we hold is the land of 1,000 lakes, and there's a reason for it. Plenty of places to get away, get out there, and have a good time. Our falls are absolutely epic and beautiful with the incredible color range and spectrum of all the trees and the leafy green foliage that starts to turn all those reds, yellows, and browns, which can make for quite the experience going into Halloween and all those fall time and activities. It really sets the mood. Not only that, on the opposite end, spring. Yes, spring is an absolute wonderful time of year. It's so wet from our winters that by the time the weather warms up and spring comes along, everything absolutely blasts, blooms into life. It feels like overnight, and you can just see the green and the leaves and all the trees turning green, and it just makes you feel alive because everything is literally coming to life around you. It gets you really excited. The days get longer, the weather gets warmer, everything starts turning green. It's a very cool feeling to experience every single year that if you're not from a true 4-season climate, you just don't understand. But be prepared that we do have 4 seasons with all the pros and cons, all the little situations that come with that. So don't be the one that comes out here with no winter jacket and no winter hobbies, being miserable. Winter lasts a while out here. We get a lot of snow, and then every 5 years or so we go through a cycle where we get a lot of snow. So don't be the one being miserable when it doesn't have to be that way. My advice, embrace it, don't fight it, because winter will kick your ass anyways. And finally, what my clients that relocate over to Spokane oftentimes ask me is like, Adam, how do we meet people? How do we make friends out here? Listen, it is simple. We have that small town charm despite our size. Making friends out here is shockingly easy, and this is coming from someone who's a natural introvert, so trust me, it's not that difficult. If you follow a routine, you go to the gym the same time every day, you go to work the same time every day, you shop around the same types of stores, you're eventually going to run into people over and over and over again, and these people from the community are going to be friendly towards you in a number of weeks as you get more familiar with each other. So just stay patient, be yourself, make sure that you're actually getting out of your home, getting into the community, keeping a schedule. That will increase your chances of running into the same people over and over again. And eventually you guys are going to start recognizing each other, and then our small town skills are going to kick in. And sure enough, people are going to start up a conversation at you. This is not Seattle. This is not Portland. You're not going to get the cold shoulder. You're not going to be frozen out like the Seattle freeze. No, over here, it's just about getting seen. So as long as you're not locking yourself up in your home, you're getting out there, you're joining any sort of gym, churches, any sort of like community events, which there are always a ton of, you're going to make friends. So rest assured, believe me, try out my process. You'll make friends in no time, loving your life over here in the beautiful city of Spokane. Hey guys, if you liked what you saw today, be sure to hit that subscribe button. It really does help us out. We appreciate it more than you know. And if you are looking to relocate over Spokane, be sure to reach out to my team or I on any of the details that we got down in the description below. We'll get on that phone with you, and then we'll get a good sense of what your situation is, and then we're going to help you A to Z. We're literally relocation experts, and we're here to help. So be sure to reach out to us. We're looking forward to your inquiry. And until next time, guys, see you later.